Ebusiafo kontonchi media so eni yamamu akwaba mede kontonchi kasiebo na ebremu na enne ni mede ebremu yensem fofra free South Africa manimu eba efa wamu a etu kwan akọ South Africa manimu mra wamu edi ye adwuma ewo kame ho wabra mede emunchiemu ebremu kwaswa na share video na like follow na afe channel no subscribe na afe wa mafoforo etimenye bi ahwe wabra obo eye notification bell no so na mede nsem foforo ba obetimi enye bi ahwe ewo se yakọ South Africa manimu osofo a wo hye weye wo munkitawodie ho nsem sofa amanane ensem International Relations and Cooperation Minister eyo Roland Lamola wode atuja se womo a eye Ghana fo ya nansenye no aban ekofa wo mu free South Africa eba oman Ghana mu no nipa beye 74% na South Africa mra no wo mu ebu so efa akontuo ho na wonim se sankrofo no visa wo mu kwaje ye no ye wo mra ye de ma wo mu se wo mu betimi at South Africa man mu na so sankrofo no etra ebro emre wo se wo mu di ewo wo mu man mu na so no wo mu bekoso abo ahoho a wo mu ewo South Africa man mu se wo mu wo mra wo mu di ye adwuma ewo wo mu emra no emu anase wo mu eman mu na sa enkrofo no na opanyi chese nyese de ekoso no wo mu enije ho se ebeba ne sa nemom sa wo ba South Africa man mu a emra ewo ho a wo mu ye adwuma na sa emra no a ye constitution ni titiriw no ehye ebo obia ho ban ehye wo mu a ewo man mu kra se wo mu emo obia ho ban ni titiriw ene Ghana fo enti wo mu nye bibi ema ne ha obi anase wo mu nye bibi ema no enha Ghana fo dada bi wo mu enye sa inti mra bi e bata wo mu ho se wo mu edidi djuma no eno a ena wo mu eye Roland Lamola echemu ese de akoso ewo wo mu man mu no Ghana fo a wondodo ebeye 74% ne de wo motena South Africa man mu achepa anka enikwan se ekoba na sa isanse mra no ewo kwanom a ebo sankrofo no eho ban inti ya eye immigration law no sankrofo no ebusa nhyehyeye no eso na so South Africa pekoso a ejina bibi ogina na wobo omanfo ho ban ni titiriw ene wo mu a ebe wo mu ewo wo mahye so no wo mekoso abo wo mu ho ban wo mu ebeba wo mu man nim so no wo mekoso abo wo mu ho ban ebi kra ekeka se South Africa fo eyiyimu eyiyi enkofo a ya agwogwo emu ewo wo mu man nim wo se da bi South Africa fo enyiyimu da abre bia no wo mu bo awoho ho ban na de enti a wo mu bo awoho ho ban ene se awoho na eboa ama South Africa man ne tumpo pa ama wo mu sikasem akonkan sansa awoho na eba no wo mu beye adwumaden edeboa ema man ne tumpo enti aban ne dia obeye ne se wono so ebebo sankofo ni na ho ban wa bra wo mu eho enka wo mu nhwe se awoho bi aba no won betete sankrofo no ti de si wo mo man mu enkyere se wo mo man no eyeyimu a yeyiyi nkofo mu na ya kyerɛkyerɛ nkofo ase bebi nkofo firi de wo mo ba beye wo mo man mu da bi wo mo nyesa na mom wo mo bo eye awoho mom eho ban na wo bi a wo bebu emra no so ne de ene bebi emra ne da no eho ana wo mo de beto se ne ebe ya enkofa haubia emma wo mo bebo awoho ho ban abo manfo na eso eho ban amanetimi aboa enti obi a wo bu South Africa emra no so se wo betena o man mu amano ache no wo mo ye nhyehyeye se oni kro no emfiri wo mo man mu enko enti Ghana fo a wo mo bae no wo mo ye nhyehyeye a wo mo de koto high commissioner no anim ene nam suma sankrofoni na no ye kofa wo mo free South Africa ma se de ye betimi akase sankrofo no aba bedru oman Ghana enti South African penifo se wo mo nyanyiyimu wo mo nsem se obi emfiri wo mo man mu anase obi firi wo mo man mu wo mo bo bia ho ban se ne ebe ya obi ahonkyere no ne sansa ahoho no eboa kyekere wo man no ama man no enyiska enti obi obebu wo mmra ne so de ene wo mmema emra no ene ne di se ne yesef na efata enti Ghana fo be 74% de wo mu ebu South Africa mmra ne so ti ebeka ne se wey ene latest development a free South Africa mining eba sabre empenifo ede ababetuja enti South Africa Minister of International Relations and Cooperation onimunyafo Roland Lamola wane ensemchofo ekasaye.
Yeah, and that's why I've said it's an issue of enforcement, that no South African or private individual should enforce the law. They don't have that legal authority. It's only for the police. Those Ghanaian nationals who have the skill, as I've said earlier on, they are welcome to contribute to the economy because they will have gone through all the necessary processes of home affairs, of legal migration into the country. And most of them, as I'm speaking to you, some of them are still contributing as we speak in the various sectors of our economy. But you should also separate in another reality. They are not just targeted because they are Ghanaians. There is a challenge sometimes also of crime, which we are dealing with, which affects not only Ghanaians or any African nationals. These crime affect all South Africans. All South Africans do get affected by crime. And more South Africans, because we are a majority, get affected by crime. And this reality is what the government is dealing with to respond to the criminal situation in the country. What we are clarifying is the fact that let's deal with the factual issues and not provide misinformation that there is 15 Ghanaians in our hospitals that have been injured during the current wave of protest. We have checked and found that there is none. We have also checked with regards to what has been mentioned in Ghana, that 2 Nigerians have been killed during the current wave of protest. There has been no Nigerian that has been killed. And also that there has been 5 Mozambicans, at least only 2 Mozambicans indeed were killed during this protest, and it's a regrettable incident that has been condemned, and the police are on the heels of finding those that this crime.
You talk about the fact that this is a criminal issue, and should be treated as such. But I'm sure your intelligence would also know that close to elections in South Africa, these things do happen. And so if I look at, the 2008 situation, very close to the 2009 situation, there are those who say there are political undertones behind this. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree. It does happen towards elections from time to time. And there is not only about elections, also external players. As you are aware, South Africa has got positions that it has taken with regards to the ICJ case in Israel. You will know that we're currently or recently dealing with the issue of white genocide in South Africa that was found to be a lie and not to be true as part of misinformation. This also is seen as a default position because of the history of South Africa in terms of racial segregation, ethno-nationalism, and issues related to violence and dividing parts of the country. So indeed, there is an underhand in relations to this externally and internally, and that is what we are dealing with to respond to, so that South Africa can be isolated in the international community as a moral and a constitutional society that protect, respect the rule of law and with the human rights outlook. So that cannot be excluded also in the equation.
Okay, and you know how the economists put it. They say a problem well defined is half solved. So you know your problem, and that means it should be easy to address it then.
Yes, we do know the challenge, and we do acknowledge it. You will see also from the speech of our president that there was an acknowledgement that there has been challenges in our immigration enforcement, including some issues related to corruption within the enforcement officials, and already there has been about 20 of them that has been fired over a period of time because of that. and also a response in terms of how to tighten and to respond to the issue of immigration. But also, it is also in that regard that he has also called for an engagement within the continent, what you have raised, because the pull and push factors are a reality that we are one of the most receiving countries on the southern tip of the continent. The African continent, our member states and our fellow brothers in the continent, there is a need to share responsibility to engage so that we all make a contribution in terms of economies growing in our own country, economies growing across the continent, and the AFCTA becomes a key platform, Ghana and South Africa, were the first two countries to implement the AFCTA. The first shipment on the AFCTA was from South Africa to Ghana. And there has been a lot of cooperation between Ghana and South Africa, and a number of South African companies invested in Ghana, and then vice versa. And that is what needs to happen, so that there should be regional integration and economic integration.
Okay, now we'll get back to this, but you earlier made the point about the fact that there are external persons behind this also. I mean, just for purposes of clarification, who are these external forces behind these attacks that you talk about?
Yeah, as I have said, that South Africa has got positions in the geopolitical environment with regards in particular to our position on the ICJ. And we knew from the onset that engaging on human rights issues and advocating for solidarity in Palestine will not come easily, and it will come with its own realities. And it is becoming very clear in the recent activities in the country that we are now also dealing with external factors, and those are the factors that we are looking into and responding to, so that the country remains united within the country itself, but also it's able to continue to be not to be declared a pariah in the African continent, but remains amongst the member states of the African Union with good standing and can also engage with everyone.
Because you mentioned ICJ, you mentioned Palestine and all of that. I'm interested in this. So, is this your belief then that those who support what's happening in Palestine could be the ones behind this?
I'm saying we cannot exclude it because we are still working within our own system to be able to really follow through. It cannot be excluded because, as I've said, you are aware, we have been dealing with an issue in relation to what has been misinformation about white genocide in South Africa, and now we are dealing with another issue. It is known that South Africa, given its history, the difficulties of racial divisions, the difficulties of ethno-mobilizations becomes a default line and a serious issue that needs South Africans to unite. And it's also because South Africa itself, as you are aware, and as you have said it yourselves many times, it's a product of solidarity of the African continent. So the best way to respond and isolate such a country is to isolate it at the base of that solidarity.
Great. Ronald Lamola is the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation of South Africa, just like our Foreign Affairs Minister here in Ghana. There are lots of questions, and I'm going to be reading some of them to you. So this one says, ask him, granted the Ghanaians and Africans living in South Africa are undocumented, whose responsibility is it to arrest the state authorities or some individuals allowed by politicians?
Is the state authority, and there should be no individual allowed by any politician.
So would you agree that the state has failed in that situation?
No, we have not failed. As I've told you, 500,000 people have been deported in the last 2 years, which is a huge number. And this year alone, about 50,000 has already been deported in the first quarter. So the state is doing its duty, but the magnitude of the numbers does require more efforts from the side of the state.
Okay. Now, this question says, please tell the minister to stop speaking English. Is he not seeing how other nationals are being hacked like animals by their thugs for very flimsy reasons, including alleged taking of their women?
Yeah, no, there's no one who has been hacked like an animal. As I've said, this environment has also led to the spread of fake news, where you see videos, shocking videos of hacking in the streets and so forth. There's no such a thing that has happened during the current wave of this protest. At least only 2 Mozambicans, as I've said, only have been killed, and this is a regrettable.
But honorable minister, a life lost is not only. Honorable minister, the point you make, a life lost is not only. When you say only 2 Mozambicans,
I'm saying at least. And
yeah, but these, when you say only, these are lives that are lost. You would agree?
No, I've
lost.
said at least. I've said at least, and I say it is regrettable and it is condemned.
Okay, great. Now let's get back to the point you make. You've talked about the fact that, okay, so there's a bit of a challenge, with employment and all of that in South Africa. Also because the World Bank indicates that about 85% of lands in South Africa are owned by 10% of the population, mostly whites. Many of these people, when they engage in these, crimes, complain about their challenges. As a government, you know what you promised before the end of apartheid and what is happening today. Why are you unable to deal with the economic challenges facing your people?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Since 1994, we have transferred huge hectares of land to black South Africans, and it is now above 20% towards 25% or 30%. It has been land that has been transferred back into the hands of black South Africans. Indeed, it's not yet enough. More still needs to be done, and government is continuing with that progress. With regards to the economy, you will remember that we had challenges of load shedding. We now have a year without load shedding. The economy is now growing, and this has been confirmed by even Richard and Spoor and various rating agencies, including the World Bank itself. The projection was that our economy was going to grow at about 2% this year, because we have now resolved the challenges in logistics, Transnet, including at Eskom, with no longer load shedding, and now our industries are beginning to grow. So there is economic growth that will have been very minimum, but unfortunately now, due to the Strait of Hormuz challenges that are affecting all the countries in the world, the economic growth has now been revised downwards to about 1.5%. But the challenges of unemployment and economic growth are not just unique to South Africa. It's a universal challenge. In South Africa, in our environment, we are responding to it. The economy is beginning to grow, and we are also beginning to grow jobs. And we believe that with the challenges being resolved in the network industries, electricity, logistics, our economy will now be able to grow. But we need to work not only for South African economy to grow. We need to work with the African continent through the AfCFTA, through cross-border regional economic zones that we are now beginning to work with in the SADC region, and also to build regional integration in the region, so that the economies of also other countries in our regions are also able to grow, industrialize, and also create jobs.
Channel subscribe na afe like video no bo notification bell no so na share ma afoforo so enye bi enhwe yada mo ase medin ene mame ajwa eson kontonchi media so eni